This is Steven Diego, and you're now tuned in to Breaking Down the Breakdown. On today's episode, I am going to talk about near-death experiences, especially one of mine. Hello, everyone. It is really nice to be back. It's so funny because the last episode I said that wasn't going to be the last episode of the season, but then shit just kind of hit the fan and it had to be the last episode of the season. Oh my goodness. Welcome to a new season of Breaking Down the Breakdown with me, Steven Diego. For those of you who don't know who I am, it's okay. You don't need to know who I am. I'm nobody. I'm just some regular dude from Toronto who had a breakdown, a mental breakdown, and I realized just how unkind this world is towards people who are in the midst of a mental health crisis, I would say, especially in Toronto, especially, retainers, y'all, nothing ever changes, especially for those of us who grew up in a society where it's pretty much a joke. So I decided to create this podcast for you, because all of the things I talk about in this podcast are either my experiences or experiences that people have gone through. And that's why I always have lots of guests. Last season, not so much, but this season is definitely going to start bringing more people in. But enough of that. For those of you who know me, I am back. I took a quick break because life just got so real these past few months. I am ramping up with my music. For those of you who don't know, I'm actually a singer-songwriter. That is the main thing. That's the main goal. That's the passion. But most important of all, doing this podcast, I don't ever want to stop doing it, because I feel like for as long as we have people who go through mental health crisis and, are afraid of reaching out, I'm going to be around. I want this podcast to be that kind of thing that people listen to when they feel like they're at their wits' end and they just need to listen to something that would help them relate to life again. And I hope that's what the show keeps on doing for y'all. But as you may have heard in the preview for this episode, I almost died. And I would really like to talk about that. I never thought I would be in a situation like this again. I actually had a brief moment, a brush with death back in 2019 when someone tried to run me over outside my parking lot. That was great. That was not a fun thing to do. It was my first experience with, how would I say this, with my fight or flight responses. I understand that some people actually freeze, and during that moment, I could have totally frozen, seeing an oncoming car backing up full speed. Now, I had never seen the car back up that fast. A lot of people have questioned me. They said, "Are you sure they just didn't see you?" Here's my thing. When you see cars backing up in a parking lot, they don't go at their full speed, do they? They don't go at like 70 miles per hour. They don't rev it. This car revved it the fuck up onto my direction. Now, mind you, I was by the sidewalk at this point. If I wasn't quick enough to actually dodge and roll and jump like a fucking action star, I would not be here. But see, this is not the experience I'm going to talk about today, but it will be part of it. The fact that this has happened twice already, twice meaning my brush with death, oh my goodness, it's the universe teaching me something, innit? So a few months ago, actually a month and a half ago, I was having um pho at home. It was old. It was 2 days old. I heated up. I was just enjoying it. And the problem with me is I'm a fast eater, right? Like my my grandpa would always say to me before, like, I eat like a soldier. Like I just inhale food. I just love food so much. And it really doesn't help that I was eating noodles and it had tripe. Now, the tripe itself, I didn't realize had become a little slimy and kind of had the texture of a noodle. But if I had just chewed my food, I would have known, right? Unfortunately for me, when it comes to noodles, I just gulp, I just slurp. I don't know. I was hungry. Again, a lesson for everyone: please chew your food. I had the unenviable experience of swallowing beef tripe whole, thinking it was noodles, and only realizing it wasn't noodles when I was already choking to death. Recounting it is crazy. Reliving this experience is actually nuts for me. Goodness gracious, it still sends me chills down my spine. I started choking, of course, and I couldn't cough it out. And it was in that moment I realized I was in trouble. I tried to get it out with my fingers at first, and it was way too slippery. I couldn't get a grip. I couldn't get a hold on it. For a split second, I kind of panicked because I knew that if I didn't get this tripe out, I would be gone. I already started getting weak. I already started feeling like I was about to pass out. And I'm sorry for the trigger warnings, by the way. I will have a trigger warning the description for this episode. But Jordan just happened to be in the bathroom. Lucky for me, Jordan runs out of the bathroom to try and give me a Heimlich maneuver. Give me a Heimlich maneuver to try to do a Heimlich maneuver. Unfortunately, the tripe was actually lodged in my... Is that called uvula? Is that what it is? Let me Google this. I don't want to talk about things I don't know about. Right, I forgot. My internet is not working right now. I need to go through my phone. Sorry, guys. Rogers, if you're listening, I hate you so much right now. Yes, so the uvula. So it was wrapped around there. So, the Heimlich wasn't really working. And literally in that moment, I thought to myself, this is it. The Heimlich wasn't working. I'm running out of breath. I was just coughing and choking. I was like, ah! I was like that. At this moment, I was, tears are coming out of my eyes. My left eye had started to bleed. It was bad. And I remember being in that situation, and I said to myself, ain't no motherfucking way I'm going out of this world like this. And I just shoved my fingers down my throat, and I kept pulling whatever I could pull in the hopes that that tripe, no matter how slippery it was, would be pulled out. And by the grace of God, and if you don't believe in God, by the grace of the universe, I managed to get it out. And I always tell this story. I tell them, picture like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Picture any final girl in a horror movie, bloodied and beaten, but they are alive and they had escaped death. It was a moment I will never forget. Tears just falling out of my eyes while I'm laughing hysterically. Somebody had said it. I think it might have been my friend Curtis. Shout out to Curtis. It was the most Chad thing I had ever heard anyone do. And I have to agree. Shout out to Jordan. My goodness, the support I had, that really did help. But shout out to me right? As Niecy Nash in her acceptance speech, I want to thank me because I saved my own ass yet again. And it's these moments. I spoke to my therapist about this, and my therapist had said that, the after effects of surviving something like this only lasts about 2 weeks. You want to make changes in your life. And it's actually very sad to think that in only 2 weeks, I wasn't going to care much anymore about these things. Lucky for me, I have OCD. So this has now become part of the loops in my head on top of my violent, intrusive thoughts that at any moment I could just choke to death. Right? And in hindsight, I'm glad it's part of the roster now, only because it reminds me all the time that I want to live. That there is so much more to life. And that what I've been doing with it, I don't want to say that, I regret things, right? Because ultimately everything you do, everything has a meaning. But I have to recognize the fact that I do get lazy and I get complacent easily. And that's why in my own life, I haven't really progressed the way I want to. And it is just like me to turn this tragic, or could have been super tragic turn of events into an opportunity. But what else could I have done? What else could we do? I wanted to share this story because, as a season opener, for those of you who are still around, this is like is this my 6th season or 7th season? I don't even know, but after how many seasons y'all are still here? And if y'all are still listening and you have a similar experience, doesn't have to be choking, just near-death experiences, I want you to come out of the woodworks and share with me how it changed your life, how it affected your way of thinking, or if it's true that it only affected it for 2-3 weeks and you're just back to your regular schedule. I can only imagine. Because how traumatizing is it? And if that were the case, why is it that certain traumas that never really posed, as something as life-threatening as this, is something that our brains hold on to, that we can't seem to forget? Yet something this life-changing, this life-threatening, is something that we can just sweep under the rug. And that's actually what I've been thinking about. I have traumas from my childhood being yelled at, right? I have traumas for failing things. And I can't seem to do X, Y, and Z because I'm afraid I'm going to fail again. Yet, here is a near-death experience so traumatizing that I want to change my life. And it only lasts for a few weeks? Get it the fuck together, brain. Let me change my entire life. Let me change me. I don't know if y'all agree with me or y'all feel the same way, but first of all, I wish none of you actually have had near-death experiences because it is fucking scary, right? It's true when they say your life flashes before your eyes, but not in the way that you would think. You think there would be a montage of, happy memories. Oh, I lived this and I'm going to miss this. No! The flash that happens before your eyes is how you'll never be able to rectify certain things anymore. That you might have lived a life full of regret. And this is how you're going to go out, and you know it. You know your life is about to end, and you haven't done this and that and this and that and this and that. And you're standing there like, fuck, if I could only have a second shot at life. It's a very traumatizing experience, yet only 2 weeks. The after effects only last for 2 weeks. I actually think it's kind of bullshit. I do know people who have had these experiences and have not turned their lives around. And that's where I'm basing this off of. It's not just me. I have seen it where I know somebody who almost died and they don't give a fuck about life right now. No offense to y'all. They don't listen to my podcast, and that's good. That's fine. But no offense to them, but this is what you did with your second chance at life. Absolutely nothing. But we can't fault them for that. Because at the very root of it, we don't know how their brains are wired. Much like me. The only reason I'm able to actually turn this into something positive or something beneficial for me is because I have OCD, right? It doesn't let me forget. It's been a month and it's still fresh in my head. It's the same way with love for me. When I love somebody, when I fall in love with someone, when I like someone, I actually like them the same way that I liked them when I first met them. The emotions evolve further, yes. The meaning gets deeper, yes. But the honeymoon phase I never get out of. They will always make me swoon, whether it's been a month, a year, 5 years. I still feel the same way. Some people like that. Unfortunately for me, my partners, they can't handle that. Because they have changed. And it's hard to live with. Being like that all the time and having OCD. But anyways, back to the near-death stuff, right? I'm actually genuinely curious to see how people handled it. If they did come out as a different person, or if they just said, fuck, glad I'm alive, let's just move on. Because in some ways I can see that happening. Acting like that never happened and moving on and continuing your life is also, I think, could also be a positive reaction to it. Because yes, your life might have almost ended, but that's just in the past, right? It's just a part of your memory. You don't have to really change much. And I guess that's how some people see it. So maybe I did kind of answer my own question, but don't we agree that sometimes people are looking for that something, that event in their lives that just changes everything? Why not this one, is my question. But I guess I'm going to have to wait for my guests to answer that. I will say, after having that experience, I am so scared to eat pho. At least to have tripe. I also noticed that, well, it was so bad, right? Like my face changed. I actually looked like those mixed Asian models with like freckles all over. I looked kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. It was quite the look. Like my freckles came out like crazy. I guess that's what happens when you lose air. Lucky for me, I didn't lose enough air where, I have severe brain damage, even though I feel like I already have. But no, in all honesty though, it's, how would I put this into words? Seeing myself like that, it was kind of difficult. Not because I didn't like how I looked. It's because it just goes to show just how much trauma I have put my body in. And I'm actually reminded of it. I now have developed this weird thing with my throat where even if it's just like a sliver of like a noodle or something, anything that's like stringy and I'm trying to eat it, even like chicken, when you chew on chicken and sometimes it's like, it's long pieces a little bit and you kind of swallow it. My throat, the moment it feels like it's a little long, I feel like it's closing in. I feel like I have to cough everything out. It's wild. And I do feel like I need to see a therapist for that. Because I know for a fact I'm fine, yet my body says no. right? Just another effect, right? That the choking had brought to me, right? Aside from the whole mental aspect of it. Now my body is reacting differently to the things that I eat. I still haven't lost weight, but I wish I could have. But it's a very unique experience, I would say. It also taught me, like what I said in the beginning about fight or flight responses. And it's so heartbreaking for me to finally understand why people in these situations end up perishing. Instead of fighting, they freeze or they flee. Ever see movies where somebody's choking and they're just, for those of you who are not watching, I'm like putting my hand on my neck and they're just kind of like, ugh, ugh, or flagging people down to get help. And, they end up choking to death because they don't know how to help themselves. It's moments like that. And I'm not trying to rub it in that I'm like, I'm a survivor. It's not about that. It's, I wish there was a way we can teach people to change their fight or flight response to fight every time that it has something to do with their lives being threatened, right? I wish there was a way we can teach people how to save themselves, how to fight for themselves, right? But that's mental health for you. That's really hard to teach. But realizing, and because I'm one of those people who, when I watch movies, right, or shows, or there's a person that's, oh my God, there's an oncoming car, just jump to the left, or jump to the right. Like they end up staying in front of that car and it's like, beam of light, and they're just like hands up in the air, like, ah, and it's like, yeah, 6 seconds to get out of the way, lady. No. I realized, no. Yes, theoretically you do. But the way you react, the way your body reacts, the reaction time, you're in shock. Your brain takes a lot to process that shock. And some people don't have 6 seconds to react to something so shocking. And before you know it, bam, they get hit. It's the same way with people when they choke. It's easy to say, well, you can just grab a chair and just Heimlich yourself. First of all, people don't even know how to do that. I didn't even know how to do that until after I had choked and someone told me. Right? Second of all, people's first reactions usually when they are in trouble and there's people around them is, please get help. Earlier today, I was at dinner with one of my best friends, and when I told her the story, she was like, so did you call 911? And in my head, it's like, how the fuck can I call 911? I'm choking to death. I was too busy solving my own problem by trying to, take out that fucking thing choking me. But I realized, because some people, at the sign of trouble, that's the first thing they'll do. Dial 911 and be on the phone and be like, ugh, not realizing they don't have time for that. They are in immediate, clear, and present danger, right? But it takes a while to admit to yourself that if I don't solve whatever this is, I will be dead in the next, let's say, 120 minutes. It's like a Saw game, right? For those of you who have seen that movie, right? That's what it feels like. You have 60 seconds to fix this or you die. And you're just there, timer on. You're running out of breath. You're choking. And I was here on this chair right now. Got up, cough, 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 nothing. That made it worse. It wrapped around even more. Tried to take it out. Too slimy. Can't. I opened the door to try and get Jordan's attention. Jordan runs out. Tries to get it out of my mouth. I kept biting him. Tried to Heimlich me. Nothing was coming out. I had maybe 10 seconds left to live. I was starting to turn purple. I was starting to get weak. And it's like a Call of Duty. Last stand, right? You had to do what you had to do to survive. And I wish, first of all, I wish none of you ever experienced this. But I wish that if y'all ever face a similar situation, I wish y'all can understand that you have the ability to save yourselves. You have the power, y'all. I keep saying y'all today. You have the power. Some people, they believe that they were fated. That's it. That they were meant to die that day. This is your life. For as long as you have control over things, do your best. There are outside factors you can control, right? For that, that's when I say, okay, you know, if you're religious, a prayer would be nice. If you're not religious, a prayer would be nice. You never know. Miracles could happen, right? That's just the way this world is designed, to be honest. And I've seen it. I think it's miraculous that I was able to grab that slimy piece of tripe. Truly, when I already tried earlier. And I just didn't want to give up. Don't ever give up. Don't give up on yourselves, y'all. If there's one thing this experience taught me, aside from, you know, the fact that I'm pretty much a badass, is I don't want to die. In some ways, it's helped my OCD. You know, from altering between suicidal ideations and murder. Like, it's just murder now. Great. No, but even that, it actually really taught me just how precious life is. And for those of us with harm OCD, I will say this. Speaking from one person who has to live with it their entire lives to another, what my experience taught me confirmed what we already knew. That we don't want to hurt anyone. We don't want to take anybody's lives, especially not our own. Because I know sometimes in our episodes, when it's a really, really bad scenario in our heads and it feels like, oh my God, like anxiety inducing and you're having a panic attack. After the attack subsides, the first thing we think about is, if I just go and off myself, no one would get hurt. It's a terrible thing. A terrible rhetoric, right? It's a horrible mindset to be at. Because we have to value our own lives as well. We can change how people perceive people like us, and we can change how we see ourselves. We can use this as a tool to really understand why we got picked by the universe to have something like this. That's the one thing I learned about almost dying, is that I don't want to die, and I don't want people to die. I don't. It's a terrible and lonely feeling when you feel your life slowly slipping out of your own hands. It's terrifying. And so, you know what? It just motivates me to want to help people even more. And I hope by hearing this story, it does the same for y'all. I hope y'all don't ever have to experience what I experienced. Just take it from me. But we are running out of time. I just want to say thank you. And I hope that this first episode into the season truly has helped a lot of y'all. It's kind of a weird topic to start off on, but I know a lot of us have had experiences like these, maybe not the choking per se, but where you almost, that could have been you. And I want you to remember that moment. And I want you to remember what you said to yourself, how you're going to improve your lives and help others. Because I know that's usually the case. This has been Steven Diego. This is Breaking Down the Breakdown. I will be back next week with a new episode. I'm excited for this season because Chelsea is going to be on this. My amazing friend from Korea. She was supposed to film an episode here, but, we just got so busy. But I'm excited for that. I hope you all stay tuned. And thank you again for all the support. And you can email me, breakingdownthebreakdown at outlook.com. My Instagram, Breaking Down the Breakdown Pod. I think that's what it's called. I forgot my socials already. It will be in the episode description. Thank you so much again. I'll see you all later. Have a good night. Well, it's nighttime here, but have a good night. Have a good day. Good afternoon, wherever you're listening to. And remember, always be compassionate. Always be compassionate. Always be compassionate. My goodness. I'm sorry. I had 2 shots of tequila earlier. Not enough to get me buzzed, but, clearly enough to kind of mess with my English. But I love you all. Be kind. Always. You never know what the other person's going through. See you guys. Bye.